Hi, everybody. Welcome to How to Physician. I am Donna Coriel, the host for this particular series, and I am very excited to be bringing you today's episode, which I will be speaking about in just a few minutes. This is episode number 10 of 12 that has been created in this series. It is an exciting hour that is filled with skills that a physician each episode has learned that they've agreed to pay forward to other physicians. And that's where we have the how-to physicians. So check out all of the footage that we have so far on somidocs.com. It is all packaged together there in our series tab. We've got about 4 or 5 series already up and live and running actively. And we also have others coming and in the works. So that's going to be super exciting. And yeah, there's just a lot coming from SomiDocs. So I hope that all of you are soaking it all in. I want to give a special shout out to a SomiDocs member that actually also was a guest on a recent episode in the panel of Conversations with Shem. Samuel Shem is hosting a series with SomiDocs, and Dr. Naran Al-Ajba just became an author, newly an author. And I want to give her a shout out with her co-author, Rebecca Bernhardt. They reported basically selling out of their new book on Amazon. So I think that that's a really cool thing to have happen. I believe that it's called Patients at Risk, and it talks about a case in which there was some malpractice committed, and so they're trying to sort of raise awareness about the different skills of different degrees out there. And so I give them kudos for their valiant efforts to sort of tackle that issue, which is a very touchy issue. And so thank you for doing that. They are selling out on Amazon. Check them out. All right. Coming up in 2 weeks on our Even Doctors Need Life skills series is Joe Fairless. He's going to be speaking. He's a very big name in real estate investing, a very, very big name. And so I'm so proud that he is joining our lineup of non-physician speakers for the Even Doctors Need Life Lessons speaking series. If you're familiar with Joe and you want to catch him during this fabulous hour, please check out when that happens. It's every Tuesday at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So come in for that one. And he is going to be talking about the 3-step process for accomplishing more. So he's not going to be talking about real estate investments per se. He's hopping on to show us just how using social media has enriched his life and has made him a successful entrepreneur. All right. So without further ado, I'm going to be introducing Dr. David Law, who is here to teach us how being a hospitalist helped him to execute a film. So don't forget to give us hearts and likes, because we really do better when we see that people like the footage that we create. So please hit that like or heart button and tell us where you're coming from. Interact with us, comment, ask us questions. We're here to help you, to make you a more fulfilled physician by learning from others. So without further ado, here is Dr. David Law.
Hello, everyone. You guys hear me okay? All right, perfect. So, hi, everyone. My name is David Law, of course, and I am a hospitalist here in Los Angeles, California. And I'm also a filmmaker. And part of my thing today is talking about how I use my path in medicine to really show me the path to pursue film and actually do that in a very succinct way that involves all of my friends and all of my community and allows me to continue practicing medicine at the time. So let me see if I can share my screen real quick before I get started. Hold on. My bad. Sometimes these things, let's adjust, very good. Okay, yeah, interesting. So right now it's not really sharing, but let me just talk to you for a few minutes about what I've done. So again, I'm David Law. I'm an internist in Los Angeles, California, and all of my life I've been making film. And I think when you say that, it's kind of hard because what is making film, I guess, right? Because I think there's the things you see in the studios of all the big screens and TVs, but then there's also this film in general that I think in the last 10, 20 years has become very democratized. So a lot of people can just do film just using a camcorder and the software and the computer. And so I was like one of those. I was a guy that just in high school, I had a video camera and I had some, a group of friends who were very creative. And I tried to do as much as I could to do film because I love the movies. Being in Los Angeles, I had everything that I always wanted around here with studios and all sorts of things that were just around me. So production of film was not only a thing I saw on TV, it was something very real in the atmosphere that I was around. So let me 1 second. I'll try to share the rest of my screen real quick. Oh, interesting. So it can't really, for some reason, I'm not sharing the screen. So we'll get to that in just a second. So a little bit about me. I'm a physician. I trained here. I grew up in Los Angeles, and I trained at the Harbor UCLA Medical Center, which is down the way, actually in my hometown of Torrance. And I was very blessed because in this medical center, I really learned the ins and outs of county medicine. I really made myself an MD, and I've been practicing as an internist and a hospitalist in the area since that time. But I always made the time, no matter where I was, to really go ahead and make creative parts of my life, not only a small portion, but to dedicate myself to actually making myself a creative person and a filmmaker. And so how did I do that? Well, it's kind of a long path, and I think it didn't really start until just recently. So bear with me if I just start a story real quick and tell you how it all went. So 2011, I graduated residency, and I entered the working world, and I felt like, okay, this is okay. I joined a group, and I started working at the hospice, and that was fine. But after a few years, you start to realize, okay, I've now done this for a while, and I know what medicine is. It's always challenging, of course, and certainly I think like many of us on this website, we have a calling towards medicine. We all want to do something and be, we all want it for a certain reason, and a lot of it is to help people and be of use to society. But I felt like growing up, I really had other things to offer in this world, and I definitely had a lot of creativity that I really wanted to get out there, but I just didn't have any way to really get it, to really pursue it formally. Medical school, as you know, is very daunting, and I think that when you go through all of it, you really do get stuck in the paradigm of I'm going to stick in medicine, I'm going to, make this my entire life, and I think that's, that's a large part of my life. But I always wanted something a little more after that. So enter filmmaking. So how did I get started in filmmaking? Well, frankly, just started by reading books and just talking to people. As a hospitalist, it's interesting. In internal medicine, you're in the hospital, but you're never really the specialist, right? You're in the hospital. You manage the care of the patient, but for the most part, you're consulting your specialist about how to do certain things and how to, you ask the nephrologist about certain issues, or you ask the cardiologist to do the cardiac cath, etc. So like you're the one that kind of coordinates everything. Well, taking that, I essentially went ahead and tried to take that same skill set and apply it to film. I didn't know much about doing professional film at that point, but what I did know was that I had a camera and I knew some basic editing skills, and I had some good stories that I wanted to figure out. So essentially, when I did that, I started just talking, and I started talking to everyone that I could. Luckily, I'm here in UCLA, or next to in Los Angeles, and I'm next to UCLA Film School, USC Film School. A lot of great resources just in this area that allowed me to talk to a lot of people who knew a bit about film. And the fact is, too, I also knew a lot of people that had pursued film as a profession, and I would follow them along on sets and film shoots and so forth. And I saw that was a big thing. So I don't have the picture here, but essentially I got together with one of my best friends, Aaron Little, who's a graphic designer and an artist. And essentially over the course of in between hospital shifts and when I had free time, we would go ahead and start to talk about stories, talk about things that we saw on TV, on Netflix, things that we liked, and start to paint out, ideas about filmmaking that I think just developed as a kernel at first, but went ahead and started to expand much greater. So essentially, Aaron and I started writing, and then, we essentially started writing a story, and we took one of Aaron's old stories, which was a horror story, and we made it a goal. Okay, we're going to make a film, and we're going to enter it into a horror film festival. Okay. All my life, I'd always made goals for things I wanted to achieve. I wanted to, get into college, so I had to study the SAT and do that. I wanted to get into med school. I had to do the MCAT, all the volunteer work. So now I wanted to do film. And it was more than just to make the film. I felt that to really do it, you had to have some kind of goal or some kind of reason to make the film, because inevitably you want people to see the film. And you can go on YouTube and start your channel and so forth, but I felt I wanted to do the traditional way and do the film festival circuit, whatever that meant. And I didn't know that. That's a whole other lecture series in itself. But essentially, so what happened was after that, we took the script of this little 10-page script that we made, and we went around and started talking to people that we knew. We had a friend who was named Blake Armstrong, who's actually our drum major in high school, who was in our marching band with us, but he was a producer in Hollywood and had done a couple of things and was doing a lot of projects on in the scene, but definitely knew how to run a film set. So I have it on the screen here, too bad we can't see it, but essentially, we took all of this, and Aaron sketched out these beautiful storyboards that essentially kind of pasted out on a story exactly what we wanted to shoot and the order in which it was done. Aaron gave that to Blake. Blake put out a whole full shooting schedule from us, and from that we had a whole template of this is 1 day of shooting, and this is how we kind of knock out every scene one by one. The shoot is definitely a very interesting thing. You know, I think when you're making a movie, you're writing and you're doing all this stuff on paper, and that's great, but that takes no money. That's stuff that you just go ahead and you just write certain things, and you can, okay, then the Tyrannosaurus went in the paddock and ate all the people or something, and that's fine, you can make that. But when it comes to producing and actually creating, that's where the intersection of the creativity and the production meet in the center, and that's where you truly create when you take from the paper and actually make it into something that people can actually visually see. And that, I think, is the practicality of filmmaking, that in which hospital medicine really helps you. I said previously, as a hospitalist, I go ahead and consult all my consultants, and I essentially have the hospital course and the patient care plan for the patients. But for film, as one person, I couldn't do it all, so I had to build the crew as well. Instead of calling the nephrologist, I would call the cinematographer, or instead of calling the cardiologist, I'd call the special effects hand and so forth. So within all of this, I didn't know everything, but after a certain number of months, I was able to learn about cinematography from talking to cinematographers. I learned about sound from talking to sound editors. I learned about editing from talking to some people who do editing on on their desktops, or just like from Adobe Premiere and all that. And over time, you start to build this crew that is able to produce a film. So what happened was that in 2018, after months of planning and just getting stuff together, Aaron and I and Blake, the three of us, we started casting for our film. Casting is the fun part. This is typically what you always see when people move to LA. They get a job as a waiter, and they go to auditions on the weekends and everything. But for us, it was a little different because we definitely want to do things much more expeditiously. A lot of casting in LA and even around the world now is done actually virtually. You send out a little log line about what the character entails and what really is required of the character. Then you go ahead and they send in videos to you, and there's websites that you can register for that people just send in videos of, and it's great. You have all these websites of all these people with videos doing the character for you with the lines that you've given them, and then from there you're able to pare it down, have phone interviews, and have an in-person interview, etc. Suffice to say, we casted our film, and we actually used one of our high school friends, Cherry Boom Mbweme, who was one of our top actresses in our high school, but was also very, very talented. And so she became the star of what we called The Uppermost, our short film in 2018. So on the shoot day, we got all there. I remember it was a 14-hour shoot day. We got there 6 in the morning. Lighting trucks were there. All this stuff that you see in the movies, like all the stuff that you never think you need to produce a film, but it's all there. The catering trucks are there. The camera crew is there. The sound people are there. And suddenly it hits 8 o'clock and everyone just is up and running. Blake's on there with the clipboard saying, okay, this is scene 1, we're doing this. This is scene 2, we're doing that. And it's all about organization. As creative as you are writing this and, going through the script and all that, when it comes to the day of the shoot, you're just there and you're writing and you're shooting things on a very tight schedule, because the other factor that comes into play is that, hey, these are people that you've hired to be there for the day. It's a time of money and production. I mean, these are people that are going to leave at 5 o'clock. You got to make sure you got everything you need before they all leave. And that's where a little bit of the guerrilla filmmaking comes in, the stress of producing through the day and just making sure everything gets done. Because certainly you want to try to get everything you can in the can, as they call it, in the can before you go home. So we shot it. We shot it in the course of one day, and hopefully we'll get some pictures up later. But we took it, and essentially over the course of the next several months, I sat down on the computer with Aaron and all other friends, and we essentially just kind of cut it together. And we did pretty well. We got it essentially first on a few small websites. And then there's a website called filmfreeway.com that has all the all the major film festivals in the country, including the big ones, of course, like Sundance and Cannes, but also smaller ones, local film festivals and little film nights and so forth. But one thing I'll say about film festivals is that, like, what you see on TV, you see the glitz and glamour of Hollywood, and you see the red carpet, and that's big. That's, of course, the Oscars and all that. But also, there's also a film community in every city that you go to that is small. That can be a bunch of small independent artists who make film not because they hope to make a bunch of money, although it would be nice, but they film because truly they find the film as a great medium by which to express themselves and really tell their story. Before this all started, I asked myself, why did I go into film? And I think Dana asked me earlier too. Well, I think a lot of people go into film for various reasons. One of my main drivers is that, like, well, I truly wanted to make something that affects people, right? Film is a great medium by which you have both the video and the audio in a cohesive format that tells you a story and can really touch people, like more so than just a simple lecture series or a talk or anything else, but really can affect people on a wide scale. And that's truly why I did it. So going to film festivals was very interesting because, at first, we didn't know where we were going to. We thought, okay, we're going to Sundance and that'll be it. We get a big motion picture deal and that's it. But it wasn't like that. Essentially, the film festivals, at first we didn't know anybody. We weren't from a big film school. We didn't have any controversial topic. We were just a bunch of amateurs who essentially made a project on the side. But in the same way that they built the film crew, I just started talking to people. And you start talking to film festivals, you start getting on websites, you start promoting yourself. And just like any other promotion, that's the second part of making a film. It's getting out there and getting your film out there and letting people see it and making people interested in seeing it. So we eventually got to our start. We got a couple local festivals at first, and then we started getting bigger and more national film festivals. I'm proud to say in 2018, we went to the Utah Film Festival, which is in Provo, Utah, and we won the best short in our category for our film, The Uppermost. It wasn't a big televised thing. We didn't hold a big trophy with the Oscar or anything at the end, but at the same time, it was really cool to be in an area where I'm around other peers and filmmakers, where we get to show our work, where we talk about our work. And, at the end, some of us get a trophy that just celebrates the commitment we put into it. So that was definitely reaffirming for all of us and showed us that, like, hey, this thing that you guys have done to make a little short film is more than just something that you guys made for fun, with your friends. You definitely put this on the world stage and people are now actually talking about it and emoting with it. So essentially with that, I've created now in the last 2 years, we've made 2 short films. The one in 2018 was called The Uppermost, a short film that we wrote. But the one we made last year was a film called Code, like Code Blue in the hospital, Code essentially. This one was a little more deep because we definitely had a little more of a budget, a little more of a crew. We spent 2 days filming it in a soundstage here in Hollywood. There's screenshots on my website and everything, but essentially the film is started the festival circuit in the beginning of 2020. But unfortunately, with the pandemic, a lot of festivals were closed or put on virtually, so things were very quiet for a while. Today is very serendipitous, though, because as we're doing the SOMI Now lecture, we're also premiering tonight our film Code at the Utah Film Festival, which is held virtually from today until, I think, Sunday, I believe. We're nominated for Best Cast, Best Ensemble Cast, and also Best Short in our category. And we definitely expect a good showing. Utah's been very good for us, so if we could actually go, we could be there in Provo and be on the red carpet with everybody. But obviously now everything's virtual, which has its pros and cons. Cons being that we can't be on the actual site, but pros is that it's online and we can share it with the community, share it with people, and really have that conversation around it. So that in a nutshell is essentially how I took medicine and used that to parlay it into film. And although I couldn't get a lot of the graphics on, one of the biggest things that I will say is that, well, what did you need to make this film? What did I need to make this film? out of the way immediately, time and money, right? So you need the time. And with one thing I've learned is that you definitely have the time. You can make time for things that you love. Whether it's 5 minutes here to work on a script or 10 minutes in before you go to bed to read about screenplay writing, whatever, you can make the time for it. Look at your 24-hour day and ask yourselves how many hours or minutes you waste in a day that could be spent towards a project you want to do. So that's one thing. The money is always a thing in film. Films cost a lot because on a very practical level, there are people who show up this is not just a creative, fun endeavor for them. It's truly their jobs. Our cinematographer, Ray Wong Chinda, he's a professional cinematographer, and cinematographer is the head of the camera department. They do everything with the camera from, making sure the camera works, the setup to the color correction, all this stuff. And they usually have a crew of assistant camera directors and like people who hold the slate board and everything. And these are people who literally they show up to work, they do their beautiful creative task, and at 5 o'clock they clock out, and then they go to the next project for the next episode or the next show or whatever. So to do that, you definitely need to make sure everyone is compensated. And for that, people can be very generous towards film, especially when it comes to fundraising. So essentially, we went on Kickstarter, we did Indiegogo, we had personal friends donate and so forth. And it was really good. I think they really did. We really had a good response from people, especially after we showed what we tried to do. And, to really get it all planned in one day, to have that one day event, it's like planning a wedding. It's like, okay, you have the whole thing set up. It's one day. Everyone does their part. And at the end, everyone goes home and everyone's happy. So essentially, once you do those things and you have the how of how to make it, then you just need, at that point, the inspiration, right? You need the goal. You have the vision of overall what this thing is going to be. This is what all filmmakers ask themselves at the beginning when they start on a project. What did something like La La Land or Jurassic Park, what did it start as, and what did it eventually become along the way? And among the most beautiful things in film that I like is that what you start with often is not what you end up with. And that's because along the way, you pick up a lot of creative people, a lot of voices that help you with your project and really help you craft it and help you see certain things that you may not have seen before. And at the end, if you've done it right and you've had everything that, in a line and you've executed the right way, then hopefully you can too make a film and also be up there at an award show talking about the project you made, and then have a crew with you that is willing to go the next step and continue making films. So that's a good 20 minutes for me. I think I'll pause there and just end with, this is essentially my passion. I think this is my passion to do medicine, of course, and be part of the medical community, but also to use film, and not just in a pure, fun, creative way, but also in a way to really express a voice that I think is a very, it's a very strong template these days by which to reach people and really get your message across. So thank you everybody for listening, and I'm now open to questions.
Wow, David, that was really great. It was really inspirational to me to listen to you talk about your path outside of medicine. It's not very common nowadays to hear people love what they're doing outside of medicine, be successful at it like you have, because it sounds to me like you're winning awards and things like that.
All right. No, I think it's definitely one of those things. The awards are definitely the cherry on top.
The creme de la creme, right?
The creme de la creme. It definitely validates everyone for everything what you're doing. But truly, I think what we do, we love it, just going through the process. Just like the love of like showing up on like a weeknight. Like, listen, we got 2 hours. Let's talk about the script. Let's talk about this scene. All the intricacy of this scene, which object goes here and whatever. These little minutiae that, like, what? It's a little indulgent at times, but at the end, if you have this overall picture, it's a truly wonderful thing. So
I think that many people that are watching, including myself, can absolutely appreciate that, because we're doing it on a mini level when we are curating our presence online. So even you take something little like Instagram, right? And you're working so hard to get your photo right? Or your caption right? And it's almost like a mini movie experience, right? Right?
That's right. Except, I think on Instagram, you have your thumb and you tell your thumbs what to do. When you're on a movie set and you're directing, it's like a big surgical theater. Everyone's doing their part. Lighting guy does this to put the light there to make that look better, to fill up the whatever. The camera guy is doing this.
Right.
So as the director, it very much is in a way kind of like being the hospitalist, in the sense that you're kind of like in your mind, it's all kind of going in one direction. You can twerk here a
Absolutely.
little bit, twerk here a little bit to make it what you want. So
Yeah, I so identify as the leader of SoMe because I've got projects that I'm now spearheading. And when you bring in others, it's not just about you, it's dependent on every player that's involved. So that's a great commentary, even on medical things, because a lot of times we are part of a team, right? And
right.
it's not just the primary care doctor that's taking care of a patient, but there's got to be great communication between all the other moving parts, like the surgeon and the gastroenterologist and whoever's involved. So that's fab.
No, that absolutely. You know, one thing I think about in residency, we had those M&M conferences, morbidity, mortality, and you know, you have all the residents, all the attendings in the same room, and the case goes up there, and they're never quiet. They're always, you know, people going back and forth, and you know, it's all for the betterment of medicine, betterment of the patient. They go and do. But you know, I think when we get together and we're doing our creative talks and so forth, it is also a collaborative battle at times. It's not always all, you know, sunshine and happiness, but there people have strong viewpoints. These are creative people, so they have definitely like very strong visions of how things should be. And oftentimes you have to like pare it down with like, oh, the production reality, and maybe that's not quite what the thing really calls for in the script. But you know, if you have a good crew, you eventually get there. You eventually make your solid product.
Well, it's like a family for the most part, right? Because you guys all want to create a beautiful film, but there could be fighting along the way, because when you work with someone, you can have a difference of opinion, but I'm sure you guys all at the end of the day have the same goal in mind. And so like family, you hopefully all love each other despite the differences in opinion.
We do. My crew's been together since high school, and it's been like 20 years. So
wow.
we fight like brothers and sisters, but it's all there.
That's amazing. That's amazing. It's so interesting that you brought up M&M, right? Morbidity and mortality. Reminds me a little bit, it's the film equivalent of like a review.
Yeah.
So, right?
Yeah. It's like yeah, not 2 stars up, 5 stars.
Yeah, exactly. Well, or the dissection of like why the film could have been better, because to those of you watching that either are physicians that don't know what M&M is, or are the public who are watching this and don't know what M&M is, that's kind of a meeting where we get together when someone passes away, and as medical professionals, we review aspects of the medical care and brainstorm through how we could have made it better.
That's right.
Right? And I think
a very collaborative endeavor where really everybody like gets to be in a room together, say the facts are there on the screen, and everyone is like, how do we do this better? How could we have done this better?
Not even from a critical, like to make someone feel bad, let's say the team that took care of this patient, but you do it in a way of, let's make it better next time, so that the next patient that comes to us with these presenting factors, we can learn from this case. So it's same with the reviews. Yeah. Do you feel, and we have a question coming in, so I'm going to ask you,
sure.
Is it hard to accept the critical reviews of your film if there have been any?
Oh yeah, no, you know it's funny. We actually sent the film to this kind of website that like reviews short films. We thought, okay, yeah, we won awards. This is gonna be great. And these three, I forget the website, but these 3 guys went on there, did a little podcast on the film, and man, it was like, well, the lighting here was a little questionable, and the direction here, like in the same way that there are people in medicine who take it that level. There's guys in film production who take it that level, and you're like, and then you feel like a jerk, like, wow, I'm okay. I should learn more about this.
Right.
Yeah, wow. And you take it with a grain of salt, because like, you know, you realize, yeah, I don't know everything there is about film. You know, I definitely want to get better, and the only way to get better is to take it all in and really, really learn from it.
Absolutely. I love that. There's 2 aspects to it, right? There's 2 possibilities. Either they're right, and so you can learn from them, or it's their opinion, and maybe others wouldn't agree. But the problem is, right, it's their show, and so you're sort of trapped there, sitting there, listening to the criticism. And again, I like that you say that. Take it with a grain of salt, because that's how you make it through life. There's always going to be people who criticize you, who either don't like you or are actually doing it to constructively help you get better. Is that right?
That's right. And like in film especially, you know, there's such a subjective tint to film. Like you go on Netflix, how many things on Netflix are unwatched because people are like, that's dumb show, I don't want to watch it. And all this production and all this effort went into producing these films and movies that some people would just never watch for whatever reason. You know, they think,
I
don't like the genre, I don't like the whatever, and you know, it could be the best film in the world, spend $100 million on the film, and no one will watch it for whatever reason.
Oh, yeah, that's a great point. Well, there's also this nebulous concept that's newer, or at least we're defining it nowadays, of influence, right? Because you can have a very crappy show that gets consumed because everybody just kind of says it's great, right?
Yeah.
Or the company pays money to rah it and make it great, and then people tune in and say, well, this actually sucked, because then you suddenly get the honest feedback and not the the advertising.
I live here on the west side, Dana, as you know, on the west side here. Man, every billboard down the way is for like the Queen's Gambit or the next Spider-Man movie or whatever. And I live down the street from Sony Pictures Studios, and right around all around their billboard, all the streets there have all Sony Pictures, advertisements and film. Right. And so the ad game is almost they hire creative people to create creative ads for the movie.
Totally.
So it's like hiring creativity to be more creative and get it out there,
Well, this is why, by the way, I love social media, because people like you and I, right, who are creative down to the core, we can actually start to get some traction for our creativity. We don't have to depend on someone that's already famous and amazing and has billions of dollars. We almost don't really have to depend on others to generate buzz about our potential.
Yeah, and that I think is the democratization of film and all this in the last 10 years. Because 20 years ago I couldn't have done this. 20 years ago, to make a film, I have to be in a studio, rent these huge cameras, and get 100 people on set. Now, with social media, with your phone can freaking get film quality stuff. For sure. Yeah, and it's with you all the time. So. Yeah,
I love that. May I make a metaphorical equivalent that I think the physicians watching this live or after the fact will really identify with? You can even say, and this is what I teach, but you've just helped me say it. You can even say that we no longer have to depend on the big institutions and the big hospitals with the big names to promote us. Right? We can actually start grassroots movements like SoMe and like so many other fabulous people to promote physician autonomy and to increase our worth in real life, because many of us are already attendings, and now we're starting to break free from these larger names and say, you know what? I can create a name for myself. I don't necessarily need you, the hospital, to give me the validation that what I have is so amazing, right?
That's right. And now you're on platforms where there's thousands, tens of thousands of people always watching you and open to it. And once you have a following, you literally just post the button and your followers all see it, So.
I love that. And again, we love institutions. We love systems, right? They're there for a reason. We need our hospitals. But our doctors, this is a way for doctors to take back some of medicine and some control and say, this is what I'm worth. I'm worth my medical degree, which is fabulous, but now I'm worth even more because I bring with me an online brand that's worth a certain amount because I've got a gazillion followers, and now it makes it more lucrative for the hospital to hire you or to respect what you say.
That's right. Definitely building the brand is huge, and the same is in film too, some guys right now when I do fundraising for films, I have to go ask my family and friends, do Kickstarter, whatever. But if I started winning Sundance and, me and my co-director Aaron started winning big things, suddenly they would just come to us with stuff. Oh, here you go. Please make this. Please make this.
And when you think about it, it's really just how the world runs, right? I mean, that's how celebrities make it big, right? When Brad Pitt was starting out many, many eons ago, he was probably begging for commercials. And then look at him now, where he probably makes many, many millions of dollars per movie. Well, it didn't always start out that way.
That's right. Yeah, when Brad won the Oscar last year, he said yeah, man, I can't believe I'm holding this. He said, once upon a time in Hollywood, that's absolutely right. Because for him, it's the crazy story. It's show up, do a couple of things here. Suddenly you're Hollywood elite. Suddenly you're this prestigious person.
Amazing. Building a brand. Very J.K. Rowling, right? In non-movie terms, right? She apparently was homeless, and yet she penned Harry Potter, and suddenly her brand recognition became, she's like the richest woman in England.
Through the roof. Now, she just says it, put her name on it. J.K. Rowling endorses whatever, and here it is. So
amazing. Amazing. Okay, let's take the questions. We've got some great comments. So Dr. Criley is saying, great job, David Law.
Dr. Criley was at my movie premiere in January at the LA Film Awards. She was great. We have a picture. She was wonderful. Thank you. Yeah.
I wish we could. Yeah. I really, again, I don't know everybody who watches, but I know Dr. Jasmika Criley from interacting with her on Twitter, and man, she posts some amazingly innovative and tweets. She makes me really think. They're fabulous. So she asks, how did you film Code in one day? No reshoots needed?
So the first film, Upper House, was filmed in 1 day. Right? That's all we could afford. Code was actually done in 2 days, which is still a lot because it's a 17-minute movie. And essentially, for every page of script is like a minute of screen time. So we had a 17-page script to do in 2 days. Luckily, a hospital drama, the soundstage was a bunch of hospital rooms and a bunch of hallways and such. So as long as you have the dialogue, you can film the hospital stuff pretty quickly. It's just kind of blah, 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 whatever, like Aaron Sorkin style, like all this stuff. But we did have some definitely really awesome special effects that Aaron, my co-director, really took the lead on. Lighting changes, smoke, and all that stuff. And those took a lot to plan. So those were the meat of our days, really, like getting these cool special effects. But then, when we got to a certain point, we were like, okay, let's jam through the next 7 pages. So this all actor talent dialogue. Let's go in that. And so that's kind of the way that you have the idea of what you want to make on film. You have the idea of I want to make a 15-minute film about burnout, etc. You get there, you write the script, but then you get to the film day, you start to realize, oh, this is not going to work, or we have to cut this way, and you find ways around it. Reshoots are a way of life. We didn't do research shoots in the sense that we didn't call everyone back to do a bunch of reshoots, but certainly I took my SLR camera and shot things around the house and fill in little close-up shots in there for it. Once you have it all there in a timeline on Adobe Premiere, you just drop things in and suddenly it fleshes out this world of the movie that exists on screen. So, yeah, it's just really about efficiency, chemistry, communicating with your team, and making sure everyone gets out on time so you don't have an angry crew that's hungry and not paid at the end,
Amazing. In fact, that leads into this particular question, which the second part was, what did you use for the movie, which I heard very quickly you mentioned, and I wanted to go back to. So what do you have a particular app that you use to create videos now? And B, what did you use for the movie?
Right. So, so this is actually part of the lecture that I was going to talk about. But man, I think when I was in high school.
We'll do it again. You're fast. We'll do it again at a different time.
Yeah. When I was in high school, God, I had like 2 VCRs. Remember those things, VCRs? I would set them up side by side and plug them into the TV. And I had to literally feed both. One would record, one would capture. It was very, very raw. And even then, we had very simple things to plug in the computer and capture video. Now, these days, for a quick fix, I'll do iMovie. Like iMovie's quick on Mac. It's like so easy and quick. It really does give you the basic facts of laying out scene after scene with dialogue and basic editing. I'll do those for quick family videos and so forth. But when I'm sitting down and really want to get into it, I use Adobe Premiere. Adobe Premiere definitely is the one of the gold standards. I think that and Final Cut are the other two. The other one. But Adobe Premiere really is the one that has the interface that makes it easy enough that if you know it, you can make a film. But if you really want to get to the nitty gritty, you can really get in there and change the little color on this side of the screen and the little special effect here and so forth. So, and I'm still a novice at that. Really I'm just laying clips side by side, a couple basic things, but I'm always learning. Every film's a new learning experience, and every time I'm getting a little better each time.
Now, is Adobe Premiere different than Adobe Rush?
I think it's all part of the Adobe family. When you're on the Adobe thing, there's like a Premiere, Lightroom, all this. I think Rush is a different program that's a little faster. I think it has the graphics and stuff. But Premiere is more like the straight up it's not very friendly at first. It's like, oh, it's kind of intimidating. But it's what they cut Avengers on Premiere. So I mean, this is the stuff that they're doing now.
Okay, no, this is great. We got so many comments. Oh, you're welcome. She's thanking us. That's so sweet.
Yeah, hey, thanks, Jasmine.
She's inspired by the creativity. Yeah. Interesting that you mentioned iMovie, because I used to use iMovie a lot. Now, for those people watching, as an aside, I actually created a tutorial for physicians that follow SoMe for using iMovie, a very quick one, very basic. So I'm going to find it and throw it in to SoMe members. Anyone that becomes a SoMe member in the next, let's say to the end of the week, can get a free tutorial from me on how to use iMovie, because I did used to use it once before I moved on to, I actually use Adobe Rush. I'm going to check out Premiere because I keep hearing everyone say it, but I do use Rush.
Oh, nice. Yeah. And I think as long as you have the idea of, okay, this is what a film is, laying scenes in front of each other, put the music around behind everything, the programs technically will facilitate that. The programs are made for filmmakers. Like intuitively, it's like, oh, it should go like this, and the timeline should go here, and so forth. So iMovie is a great way to start. I think that'd be great to put the your tutorial on there. And I see Dr. Disney here. He did Da Vinci from Final Cut. Da Vinci.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I keep hearing about Da Vinci. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, so Da Vinci was classically a coloring program, and I didn't know what that was. What is coloring? I thought when you take the film, that's it. Well, actually, when you take the film, it's a very bland cut. It's the actual, like most of the cameras you use, Arri Alexa, what do you call it, Blackmagic, whatever. When they shoot a picture, it's a very large file because they capture all of the data, like all of the color palette, as much data as possible in every second of film. So every file is gigs of size, right? But when you look at it, it's very bland. Like this looks so terrible. That's because every second of film has so much information in there. They can pull out colors, put colors in there, etc. Da Vinci was a program that was purely just a coloring program for the longest time. It was the coloring standard. They used to color all the movies in Da Vinci, like color schemes like in like La La Land, for example, that has a weird kind of LA hue. That's all done in Da Vinci. So you have a certain look. But Da Vinci over time became then also an editing program too, where now they're saying like, well, why even try to like hedge it? Just all in one. This color correcting Da Vinci and editing Da Vinci. So that's the way it's going now.
Yeah, the Adobe Rush, I could tell you, you can also edit the color. Maybe Da Vinci has more functionality.
No, so yeah, it's like Adobe started as an editing program trying to go color. Da Vinci started as a coloring program trying to go editing.
Got it. Oh, interesting.
It's going the other way, yeah. So.
Well, again, metaphorical equivalent. I don't know if you saw, but literally 2 days ago, it's like Twitter premiering stories suddenly.
Yeah, there you go.
Like everyone, right? LinkedIn premiered stories like a few weeks ago, and everybody was like, whoa, this is a professional network. Why are you doing stories? And then suddenly it was, oh, Twitter is now doing stories. So again, it's entrepreneurial innovation. You're trying to sort of be up to par with what your competitors are doing. I think that's yeah.
And if you can be one-stop shop, it's it's easier for everybody. One-stop shop, quick.
Right.
It's done. Yeah.
Right. So I mean, this question is for me, and I really don't want to take away from David. So I'll just very quickly say, I don't know that there's features on there that are not present in other apps. I can tell you that there are many more features than iMovie tells you to use, but iMovie has features that Rush doesn't have. And so that's what happens when someone asks me how I edit something. I always say, well, I use many apps because I go from one app to the other and I soak up the benefits of one app and then take it and put it in another app and then soak up those benefits. Right, David? Do you agree?
Absolutely. And to what your point earlier was saying, so now the companies are all trying to make it, well, let's make it so there's only one app. Our app that has everything that you need, and it's not quite all there because every app has their different things.
Right, and you can't because there's creators working for this app to make it better, and there's creators working for this app, and one of them's going to innovate, and the other one's looking on from the side, going, "Ooh, I should do that too."
Yeah, absolutely. Like stories. Oh, the stories are great. Everyone loves the stories. I love stories, so let's put on LinkedIn. Fine,
Exactly. Absolutely. Exactly. All right. Next question. Time-wise, we're on 44. Okay, we still have about 10 minutes, so perfect. I think this is really resonating, not only with people that have tuned in live, but with people that will tune in afterwards. All right. So, this is a good one. Any tips on Kickstarter? Does a lot of work go into that?
Yes. Kickstarter is like, when we started our film, when you start the film, first thing you need to do is establish your social presence. Even before you've made the film, you need a Facebook page, Twitter account, Instagram, Kickstarter, all this stuff for this film that you haven't made yet. So for what was good for us, that my partner Aaron, he's a fantastic artist, and on Kickstarter, essentially what we did, we put his screenshots on there, so we have a very clear picture of where this looks like, what it goes. We actually made a little reel of like some of these screenshots set to music, so it looked like a little preview of what it could be. And from there, and then you enter the hot topics. This is a film about physician burnout. This is a film about medicine, whatever. And from there, it's about promoting the Kickstarter, getting it out to people, and not getting huge donations from one person, but a bunch of small donations from a big community of people. It takes a lot because obviously without money, this doesn't take off. So Kickstarter definitely needs to be the more real of your concept that you can put on there through photos, videos, prelim shots, even a scene from the movie that you shot with your iPhone. That can be part of it too. So Kickstarter definitely is the big part of the takeoff process.
Did it take a long time to set it up? Besides the creating the photos and the images that will warm the hearts of those that you want donating. Is there any more work from behind the scene, or is it just about setting it up, putting your convincing material in there, and then pressing go?
I think it's always going to have the base of all the material, so there's all the reference to go to it. But then for you personally, that means you go on Facebook and you promote your Kickstarter. You go to these other events and you promote that Kickstarter. I mean, this is all very like, this is what the filmmaker, this is what makes you a filmmaker, whatever that means, you know. But really taking it out there and like just, you know, selling your wares and trying to get it out to the audience so they know what you're doing. You know?
Interesting. All right. Yeah. And is there, they take a percentage, I'm assuming?
I think it's like, yeah, they take a small percentage. I forget how much. Yeah, it's not bad. It's definitely not bad.
Okay. All right. One more, well, maybe two more. All right. So David Law, how did you go about incorporating music into your videos?
My cousin George Ramirez is actually a world-renowned pianist and composer for film of all things, right here in LA. So essentially, me and Aaron sat down with him like, hey man, we want a spooky soundtrack for the Uppermost. Okay, so he just sat down with it. He took his piano out and started making things together, and he did an awesome job. So essentially, that was he's our music guy. You know, I talk about building the team. He's my radiologist, I guess, or my whatever. But George did all the music for Code as well. And, you know, we told him for that one, it's very interesting because George is not in the movie, but George actually went on set just to watch us perform, watch us do everything. So he get kind of a feel like, hey, not only do I know the concept of the story, I've been there. I know what the setting of the set was like and all that. Right. So that's for my insight to learn how a musician actually, because I'm a musician too. I play violin and saxophone and I play in bands and stuff. But George truly is a composer of like working in the film, and truly to see his process like this. I'm gonna take this idea and make it into a musical interpretation was truly brilliant.
Amazing.
So yeah, George is great. He worked on that series on Netflix, Haunting of Bly House, I think recently. So that was pretty cool. But yeah, I mean, just a really cool way to like kind of interpret. Oh, now you're blending the music and the film and it's all that. So
incredible. Yeah, it's an issue for a lot of us who are content creators in terms of what music can we use. I don't know if you have any suggestions, but there's really not a lot out there that is not either copyrighted or, you know, some infringement, some infringement quality to it. Is there a space that you can recommend, or an app, or a site?
So there's definitely a bunch of websites you can subscribe to that will give you license-free music. Because it's stuff out there. Musicians will make a song, I only get paid for it, and that's it. Some websites you subscribe to on a monthly basis will allow you to browse their catalog of license-free music or royalty-free music. And based on your subscription, they'll give you that license to use for your videos. That's one. Okay. One thing that I do pretty often is that I'll go on YouTube and literally look for royalty-free music. There's a lot of people out there who just literally want to get stuff out there, and they'll write on their YouTube page, free to use for any source. Most of the algorithms won't pick it up when you post it on the websites, or if they do, they'll say, oh, this one was cleared to be free or whatever. So YouTube's a good choice if you look for like musicians who are coming out there who have royalty-free music. And if not that, those other websites, and I forget what they are, but you can subscribe and get licenses for them as well.
Fabulous.
And then if you want if you want something like some major big song by like Blink-182 or something, then you have to go to the record company and pay like $1,000 for that song. But no one wants to do that.
So that's a question that's come up before that I've heard is, what if it is a famous song like you mentioned, like Blink-182?
Yeah.
But first of all, it seems that YouTube allows you to post it. So A, how does that happen? And then B, how do some people do it and some people not?
Yeah, so back in the day, YouTube didn't have that algorithm. So back in the day when YouTube recognized it, they would just strike you down, that was it. Over time, the companies realized, well, listen, they're not using our songs, no one's getting paid. So YouTube has actually, they have sponsorships with some of these record companies that if they recognize your song on the YouTube video, any hits, any money you make from those hits will go not to you, will go to Universal Records.
Wow, interesting. Right.
Now YouTube, and I think I saw Dr. Disney on here a bit. He's a bit of a YouTuber and he has a lot of followers. But I believe they started like 100,000 views when you start getting the first reimbursement. So it's not a lot of money. I mean, you're thinking about if someone gets like 10 million views, okay, yeah, then it's significant. But for your more modern thing, YouTube will even allow most pop songs to be on there, knowing that it's not really going to see that many views, and it's likely okay, unless you get a cease and desist letter or something.
So again, and we're not lawyers, so please take this with a grain of salt. So you think that it's still okay to use famous songs, you just won't make money from it, and it's okay.
Yeah, YouTube will actually give you a thing to click on and say you acknowledge you're using something owned by BMG Medical Music Group. Right. Thus, profit will be spiritual, whatever. And you click the box and then, okay, well, now it's not gonna. Now if I get 1 billion views, I won't make $1 million. So, you know.
Of course. Okay. Interesting.
Right.
Interesting.
Yeah.
All right. Let's see what he says. All right. So, here. So this is a great. Type in YouTube audio
There you
library
go.
on
There
Google
you
for
go.
license-free music. It is a
Yeah.
massive data. But I wonder, do you have to use? Can you export that music into an app where you're making your video, or do you need to use it in YouTube?
There's ways to do it. There's definitely a way, and I've done it actually a bunch of times. There's ways to convert YouTube videos into straight up MP3 files that you can use for your own personal use. There's things on Google. So there's ways to withdraw the files from it.
Right.
Even some of the pages on YouTube will have to say, download this file if they allow you to do that. So that's what too.
Great to know. Great to know. Yeah, and he's given himself a little plug, which I love. All right.
Yeah, he's great. Yeah, he's awesome.
He is great. He is great. I met him in the SoMe Docs networking event.
Great.
All right. I think that we're going to wrap it up. David, this was fabulous. Really.
No, thank you. And I didn't have the picture to show this time, but what I'll do is that I'll post the uppermost, our first film, on SoMe Docs. It's on Vimeo, so everyone can watch. And then I'll just remind starting tonight through Sunday, we'll be at the Utah Film Festival for showing Code. And we're up for Best Ensemble and Best Short. So hopefully.
Well, on behalf of SoMe Docs and all the physicians in our community, I am sure that they will all join me in wishing you luck. And we hope that you win all of the awards that you deserve. And we want to see more coming out of you. We really do.
Absolutely. There'll be another film.
Wonderful. All right. Bye, David. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. For those of you that are still here, thank you for tuning in for this 10th episode in the How to Physician series. It's so exciting. We have 2 more coming up to round out our season. We've got next week on Friday, that's Black Friday, we've got Dr. Letizio Alto coming in. Next Frida. It should say next Friday, but she's going to talk to us about real estate investing. I think she talks about investing in multi-property homes, and so they've got a course coming up, and so we're going to be featuring her, which is fantastic. We've also got a show every Tuesday night at 9 p.m. called Even Doctors Need Life Lessons. Next Tuesday is Keith Farron. He's going to speak about messaging, basically leveling up our social media messaging. And then, and let me just show you all his picture. So this is Keith Farron. He's coming up next Tuesday for that particular topic. And then the week after, we've got a big name in the real estate industry. This is Joe Fairless. He actually hosts a huge conference every year called the Best Ever Conference, something like that, because I think his podcast is named the Best Ever Podcast. And so he is really a figure to follow as well. And we've got a lot of really amazing speakers. So check out our series. All of the upcoming episodes are actually there and ready to be clicked into. If it hasn't happened live, then there will be no footage. Join us live or watch the footage after it's done. And that's basically it. That's all I'm going to be talking about today. This is Best of Luck, David, to David, who's still here in the behind the stage. All right, everybody. Have a fantastic rest of your Thursday and a great weekend. And I hope that I will see you on the next SoMe Docs Live.